All right, greetings, hardcore Dynasty football players, sleepers specifically. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a 32 Team Dynasty League. Now, I've already got one, Legends of the Deep, if you want to follow those. That was a team we drafted from scratch. And this one we did not draft from scratch. If you're familiar with Sleeper, you know they do allow for 32 team leagues. And it just so happens there's 32 NFL teams. And so what you can do is you can just create a 32 team league and then assign all of the Steelers players to one owner, all of the Cardinals players to one owner, all the Patriots and so on. And so then you've got your startup draft pretty much handled. And then it comes down to people if they want to trade or if they want to, add some free agents off the waiver wire, if they want to draft different rookies than the Steelers did or whatever. So I'll talk a little bit about my process on this one. Slight distraction there, but we are still rolling here. So this was a team that I picked up, the Steelers. And then there were several moves that I have made here. Number one, to move up from the 21st draft pick. So you got the Steelers were drafting 21st in real life. So I started with the 21st pick, but I ended up making some deals. And I won't itemize those too much. I will tell you this league is pretty hard to get deals through because a lot of them get vetoed. There's a lot of people who like to vote on this stuff. But I ended up moving that pick all the way up to, I believe it was around the 8th pick or so. We'll look at it here in just a minute when we get to the draft board. And then kind of trying to look and see if I could work a deal to get the Indiana quarterback, whose name escapes me, and we'll look at him in a minute. But I never was able to do that. I kept talking to people, trying Mendoza, and no one would do that. So then I started thinking about, okay, well, who can I get, and then work a deal. Maybe get something back down at 21 in addition to picking up something else. So, and that did work out. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I do, as a result of a lot of moves, I have 2 first-round picks in 2027 for the Steelers, and I have 3 first-round picks in 2028, and I will probably try to turn one of those 2028 first-round picks into a 2027. That draft is supposed to be pretty stacked. It should have a quarterback or two, I hope. And I do think the Steelers need to be serious about getting a quarterback. So that's the beauty of this league is I can take the Steelers, and if I think they should be blowing it up to try and reset and get better, I can do that. But I don't know if the real life Steelers are ever going to be like that. They're always going to be 10-7, and they're always going to be picking at 20, and they're always going to be getting in the playoffs and losing in the first round, I think. But I did do some pretty aggressive waiver wire stuff after the draft, so I'll talk a little bit about that. And I also I have 3 kickers on this team. I happen to notice there were several good ones out there, and people weren't paying attention. So I am normally the one who will not worry about a kicker until the last second. But I also feel like in the case of a 32-team league, you got to balance that a little. And if I've got 3, somebody's got none. I'm pretty sure about that. So we'll see how that goes. So let's take a look at the roster. I am keeping Will Howard, it appears. I have said I'm not trading him. I really hope, for the sake of my fantasy team here and for the sake of real life, that Will Howard gets his shot and he just gets to play. And again, if he sucks, he sucks. I can live with that. Let's go get a high draft pick next year and see what we can do with that. But I did end up in this league getting Rico Dowdle, and I was able to just add him. So this would have been after free agency. I got to just pick him up. But you'll notice here, A.J. Brown. That's going to be a little bit of a draft day thing we're going to talk about some. I did pick up K.J. Osborne off the waiver wire. Here's Disley. I'm really weak at tight end. A little bit of a story here with Roush. And I also got a couple of free agent running backs. I've got Eckler, and I got a couple other guys, I think, Mixon and some folks that might work out in the long run. This league does run individual defensive players. So I did get all of these Pittsburgh guys. Here's a rookie that we'll talk about a little bit. And here's a rookie that we'll talk about a little bit. But TJ Watt, here's a rookie we'll talk about a little bit. So Really kind of leaned on the defensive side of the ball in the draft. I did just pick up Tyrod Taylor off the free agent scrap heap, and now he's the backup in Green Bay, which might work out at some point. I do have Aaron Rodgers on here. I do anticipate he's probably going to be a Steeler again. But I did pick up Kirk Cousins, and he's probably the starter for the Raiders. And again, I feel like people have got to do some inventory. I mean, there's only 32 starting quarterbacks, and we have to have one on our team to fill our positions. So something to think about anyway. A bunch of depth pieces here on the bench. I've got a little lock here on a couple of rookies and stuff. Here's Najee, who again isn't playing for anybody, but will probably end up playing somewhere. Here's some rookies that I got off the waiver wire that we will talk about. So let's go to the draft. I ended up with the 5th pick. I ended up trading up. I think I was at 8. 8 sounds about right. I think I traded up to 5, and I picked Lemon. And the reason I did that is because I had talked about a trade with the Eagles guy. And if you're familiar with the real life draft, apparently the Steelers were about to pick Lemon in real life, and the Eagles jumped ahead of them, trading with the Cowboys, and ended up picking him instead. So I picked Lemon, and then I talked to the Eagles guy, and I said, hey, do you want Lemon? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, the price will be A.J. Brown and your first round pick, which happens to be back here at 123. This Portland John is the Eagle guy, but I ended up with this pick. So I ended up trading him Lemon and getting A.J. Brown and getting this first round pick. So out of all my finagling to move up, I couldn't get Mendoza. I talked to this guy about trying to trade for that pick, and he said no, he was taking him. I ended up picking this guy, trading him away, getting A.J. Brown. So I really see him as my first round pick. He's going to probably be a Patriot, is the rumor. And then I also got this 123. And what I did with that pick is I grabbed the defensive back that the Chiefs traded up for in the draft. I think they picked him with like the 6th pick. And the one thing I'll say about individual defensive players is nobody seems to want defensive backs too much, specifically corners, which is what this guy is. I just figured with the 23rd pick, I already got a wide receiver with A.J. Brown. I would go defense. He was the best defensive player available to me. And so I grabbed him. As I look at some of these other guys, I mean, look at the offense here. Offense here. There's some defensive linemen. There's a linebacker up, maybe should have grabbed. But I will just take really a great player is what I was looking for. Let him just sit on my defensive back spot on my starting lineup, and I can set it and forget it. And that's pretty much what I was trying to do there. So the first round, I really ended up with A.J. Brown and Delane, who is a brand new Chief. And by the way, they traded away their corner to the Rams, so I know this guy's going to get to play. So, and if he ends up being awesome, then so be it. By the way, here's Jonah Coleman again, one pick in front of me, and I very well may have taken him. So, but we'll take the defensive back. We're fine with that. So again, I mean, by the time you get to the end of the first round, you've got Williams, and then, here's this Lawrence guy for Dallas who I ended up in another league. I like him. I have the Browns in a league, so we'll talk about that a little bit, but this is a target for that team, McNeil. And anyway, yeah, just pretty standard as far as if you want to pause some of this, take a look at the order in which we did do a snake rookie draft because we did a snake. Or no, we didn't do a startup draft. We just, everybody had their starting roster for their real life team, and so we did the draft order based on real life, and then we snaked it. Not necessarily the way the NFL does it, right? But maybe the more fair way to make that happen. As we went through those first 2 rounds, we came back around here, and then I did not have a pick for quite some time. I got all the way here to 221, and I ended up picking this defensive lineman Banks. And for some reason in the startup drafts that I have been in, this is a first-round pick for the Minnesota Vikings, and nobody wants him. So I'm going to guess he's probably not an edge rusher. He's probably not getting sacks. he's a run stopper. He's probably just in there doing the ugly work and stuff. But I just, again, got to be honest. Let me grab somebody, put him in there, let him get 5 tackles a game, and I'll be fine with that. So I really felt lucky at the 221 getting a first-round NFL draft pick in Banks. And as I look at these other guys that are coming up next, I wouldn't have picked them above him. So Brazel, I think, is a bargain here. Surratt, I think, is a bargain here. So I think those were probably pretty good picks as we were moving along. We get down here to the 3rd round, and I think I did not have a pick in the 3rd round. I did not. It came back around to the 4th. I got this guy. He was the Buffalo Bills' first pick, but it was in the 2nd round. And again, I don't know how I'm getting him at the 4-5. I find him to be very serviceable. So I went heavy defense. After I got A.J. Brown, I went defense, defense, defense. And I think I'm okay with that. I really do. So after getting Parker, came back around, and I'm thinking I did not have another pick. I did not, it appears. So when I go back and I look at my draft, per se, I really feel like I did pretty well. Now, again, I'm not an independent individual defensive player guy. I haven't done it much, but I'm kind of taking the approach of if I get really, really good players, 1st-round picks, 2nd-round picks in the 4th round, when there's no offensive lineman going off the board. That's the other part, is like these things should shrink up a little bit, not back. So I just feel like I'm really getting some mileage out of my picks is what I'm doing. So then the waiver wire happened, and what I did was I went through the actual NFL draft, and I grabbed anybody 3rd round or above who had not been picked in our draft, because I felt like they must be pretty good, right? And I'm not trying to be any smarter than actual NFL scouts and evaluators and that sort of thing. And the one thing I specifically looked for was a tight end, because my tight ends suck. I traded away Freiermuth. I traded away Washington. I don't know that the Steelers' future tight end is currently on the roster. So I ended up with this Roush guy off the free agent scrap heap, and I was pretty happy about that. Here's my Banks, who I was very happy to get in the 3rd round. Delane, who I got at the end of the 1st. Parker, who I got in the 4th round. I'm still pretty shocked about that. And then, as I get to my bench, here's a guy, Thomas, that I ended up picking up again off the waiver wire, and he was drafted fairly highly by the Vikings. And there was a couple other guys here, I thought. Team. Yeah, Orange, Davis, and Everett. All these guys, I think, and I did pick him specifically because he was a Steeler, by the way. I feel like that handcuff probably plays. I just throw these guys on the taxi squad. They're waiver wire pickups anyway, and yeah, I think in the long run it probably pays off. So I think that pretty much covers this one. I expect that this team will not do that well this year. And I'm okay with that because, again, I've got 2 first-round picks next year, and I hope they're really good ones. And I doubt it'll be a snake next year. It'll be just a linear draft, just like the real-life draft. So I am not necessarily tanking because I will set my lineup and I will try to compete. But, hey, if my team just stinks, that's okay. And that's not something the Steelers necessarily do in real life all the time. So this is the National Football League 32-team Dynasty PPR league, and I'll try to be touching base with you guys on this one, as the season goes along. But there is the rookie draft review for this league, and let's talk about another one here in just a second. Y'all stay safe out there.